Semenyo and the potential signing of him at Manchester United this forthcoming January 2026 window. We're also looking looking at what Wayne Rooney has had to say as well about Semenyo and about Mbeumo as well, which I think could get a lot of United fans excited too. Plus an update from Fabrizio on both Semenyo and United's links to Karim Adeyemi from Dortmund as well. But you know what you've got to do first, everybody, is like, share, and subscribe this across all your social media platforms, your group chats, your family group chats. But get it liked, get subscribing, turn that bell notification button on as well. Get it out of the way, get the admin done. Let me know where you're all watching from around the world. I like to know that. It's always good to know that it's just where people are watching from and what you're doing. So are you at home? Are you at work? Are you at school? You shouldn't be watching if you're at school, but this is probably going to educate you more anyway, right? Well, that's a joke, in case anyone gets offended by it, but there we go. Hello, Liam. Hope you're good. Hello, DJ. Hello, Samantha, Barnaby, Liam, Jaywood. Brilliant. David, yes, nice to be back. It's nice to be back. I'm here again, obviously, tonight, and I'm back tomorrow as well, which I'm always excited. I'm always excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here. Where do I start tonight? I'll tell you where I'm going to lead from tonight. I'm going to lead with what Wayne Rooney has said, and then we're going to touch on Fabrizio's update. So stay with us for that. I want to touch on Wayne Rooney, who has said, Wayne Rooney has revealed, I'm going to read this to you. Wayne Rooney has revealed his top 3 Premier League standouts for the season so far. So it isn't just new signings, it's just standout players so far. And I wanted to specify that because some are new signings, but I didn't want you to get kind of sideswiped by that. And he says here, Antoine Semenyo, I think he's been brilliant for Bournemouth, carrying on his form from last season. I'd also put Bryan Mbeumo in there. And I think he's been really good for Manchester United. The third one, now this one actually surprised a lot of people today. The third one, I'd probably go for Victor Gyökeres, which I think, obviously this is not an Arsenal show, this is purely Man United. I think some people would be surprised by that, but I actually think the criticism of Gyökeres has been so over the top, so exaggerated, so blown out of proportion over the space of the season so far. When you actually compare him to the vast majority of new strikers and existing strikers at Premier League clubs, he's done as well, if not better, than the vast majority, right? But yet he was kind of, ridiculed quite a lot. But for me, Mark says, I'm watching from sunny Wolves. Big up yourself in Wolves, my friend. What's interesting about this, we all know how good Bryan Mbeumo has been. I think maybe it took a few games to settle, but Man United, it feels like a duck to water. It feels like fish and chips. It feels like a glove to hand. It's a match made in heaven. I think Bryan Mbeumo, I don't want to jinx it, and I'm going to touch wood when I say this, but it reminds, different player, different profile, but it reminds me of the Bruno Fernandes signing. Reminds me of the Lisandro Martinez signing. Barring his injuries, I think those 3 signings, and you may disagree, and I'd love to get your idea. They're in my top 5 anyway, signings of the last decade. And it's hard to actually complete that. De Ligt probably gets in there now. I'm not even sure who else would be in my top 5 because I'm thinking about this on the hop. I didn't think about it beforehand. I'd love to know yours. But Mbeumo, without a doubt, has not just been one of the best signings this season for any club. He has been one of the best Premier League players, there's no doubt. And I love that from him. Jack Varane, he says, Varane, do you know what, mate? You're spot on. I think Varane is such a good suggestion. I think Varane's in that category. I'm actually intrigued to know who's in my top 5 now. I know that sounds weird. I haven't really thought about all Man United's transfers. I want to know. Cunha, I wouldn't put Cunha in there yet. I wouldn't put Cunha in there just yet. Rob, always United. We can't afford luxury signings like Semenyo. We'll come back to that in a moment, my friend. Who else goes into that top signings? De Ligt, I think, might go in there. Maz, maybe. I wouldn't put Yoro in there yet, but he could be in there. He hasn't really put a foot wrong. It's not anyone from the previous year. It's not Anthony. Casemiro? I don't know. I don't know if I put him in. Lissandro I would. I think Lissandro's been great. Varane, we've mentioned. Who else we got here? Amad Diallo, you might put in there. Donny van der Beek, definitely not. Maguire, no. Wan-Bissaka, no. Dan James, no. No one from 2015. 2017, no one in there from me. Pogba's probably in the top 5, if I'm being honest with you. Pogba's got to be there. Onana, Anders. You cheeky swine, you. Who else are we looking at? Anthony Martial has got an argument to be in the top 5. I thought he did well for us, to be fair. That's kind of it. You might throw Juan Mata into it, to be honest with you. But there hasn't been great. Like, he's in the debate, right? But that all being said, I love that Rooney's come out and said this. It's an important thing. And Mbeumo deserves his credit. But what I love about Brian Mbeumo, he just gives me the impression that he's going to keep working hard, he's going to keep his feet on the ground, and he's going to keep striving to get better. I still want to see more output, and I know that might sound greedy, but you know one thing United haven't had for a long time is a man that gets braces and a man that gets hat-tricks regularly. Even when Rashford was scoring all those goals after the World Cup in 22, it was a lot of single goals in games. What I want to see is somebody, Mbeumo against Spurs, if he could have got himself a brace in that game, we might win the match, right? I want him to get to that point where it's a goal and an assist, or 2 goals. I want him to push towards 2 pieces of GA per game. You know, I really want to set the bar high for him because I think he's brilliant. The other element in this is Antoine Semenyo, who I agree. I personally, if I was doing the list, would have Haaland on the list over Gyökeres this season. And I'm someone who's a fan of Gyökeres, but Haaland would be on my list. But Semenyo is definitely there. And Mbeumo is definitely there in the top 3. And the reason why I think this is so significant is I'm going to go back to what Rob said. And listen, I want to get your comments. I'll interact with them as best I can. You know, there is a lot of you watching here, though, on the United stand. There should be more if you guys share it. Gerard Richards, Ibrahimovic. How can I even forget about Ibrahimovic? He definitely goes into my top 5. So I'm going to put Bruno in there. I'm going to put Mbeumo in there. Zlatan, Pogba. I'm actually putting De Ligt over Lissandro. Oh, I'm putting Varane over them both. De Ligt's now dropped down. But yeah, there we go. But the bar's not very high at United. But the Semenyo situation is interesting because Rob, always United. And I respect you, mate. You're always here on the United stand. You're always on my channel, The Football Terrace. You're always here. Love that. Love the support. But I don't view Semenyo as a luxury signing. I view Semenyo as an imperative signing. Now, I got a lot of stick on my own show earlier on today, one of my podcasts called Straight Facts. I got a lot of stick for talking about Semenyo playing at left wing back. Terry, you don't know ball. The wing backs in a 3-4-3 situation need to be, their foot needs to be the foot if they play on the left, they've got to be left footed to whip balls into the box. That's how it works. And there is some truth to that. Ruben Amorim at Sporting started off with Mendes, and Porro. But he later evolved and had wingers such as Giovanni Quenda playing in that role, inverted on the opposite side. He likes that dichotomy. He likes that contrast. He likes to be able to change things up. So instantly, Semenyo can play our wing-back roles. Man United's wing-back roles are meant to, when a fullback plays in them, be players that are more attack-minded than defending. There are times where he will pick the more defensive-minded players, but there are times where he wants the more offensive-style players. We need the dichotomy. Semenyo can also play in the 10 role. Because our 10 role isn't the old-fashioned Ozil-style 10. It's a role where you drift out into those wide positions alongside your wing-back as well as operating centrally. And Semenyo already does that. There's also a lot of talk from Wilcock and others about evolving into a 4-3-3 in the future. We may also change managers at some point, and Semenyo can adapt and change to that quickly as well. So he's a player I want. I don't see him as a luxury. I see him as a necessity to our squad build. Now, where I agree with you, okay, where I agree with you is the element of, do we need a midfielder first? Do we need a defensive-minded person first? You know, do we need that? Do we need to have somebody of that level? Do we need to have somebody of... do we need to go for that player first, or does it need to be a DM? Does it need to be a holding midfielder? Does it need to be more of an Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Belieber first? And I get the need and necessity for those roles because I want the midfield fixed as well. But as we spoke about yesterday, you don't always buy your main priority first. You have to weigh up who's available. And for instance, let me just paint you this one picture. As you know me, I'm always going to look for the silver lining. And even if I don't agree with something, I'm going to look for alternatives because it's how you think, right? It's called critical thinking. Say we go, listen, we want Belieber and Anderson and we can get them both in the summer. I wouldn't not sign Semenyo now if we can get those guys in the summer. I wouldn't look at it and go, how dare we sign another wide player, an attacking player, before we get a central midfielder? But if we decide on the central midfielders and they commit to us, but we can't get them until the summer, I wouldn't want to sign no one. I wouldn't want to sign anybody that doesn't improve us. So that's I don't look at it as a luxury. I look at it as an essential player to our squad build. Where I do agree with you, if someone said to me now, Terry, you've got a magic wand, you can have Belieber or Anderson now in January, or Semenyo now in January, I am picking the midfielder first. I absolutely concur on every single level. Someone here says Terry and dichotomy. I love the word dichotomy, but if it helps, I can use the word gulf, or I can use split, or I can use conflict or contrast. Would you rather me use a different word? I just like the word dichotomy. But there we go. Gav here says DM is needed more. I don't disagree. But this is where I want the club to be sensible. So I like João Gomez. I think he helps improve us. I'm going to go to Emily Derry's super chat in a minute. I haven't forgotten about it, Emily. I'm going to come to that in a second. I look at this, Gav, though, and thank you very much for being a member of the United Stand here. I look at it and think to myself, I want it. But if our main targets can't be got until the summer in that area, but we can get a number one target in a different position now, and the spending of that money doesn't stop us getting the midfielders, I'd rather do it that way around. Emily Derry here with the super chat says, we signed Semenyo, we can either start and we threaten down both sides, or he can come on and we can switch that emphasis of attack from right to left and vice versa, harder to defend against. I agree so much with what you said there, Emily. I think it's a fantastic super chat from yourself, and I feel that he would add such an element. We could start him as left wing back in some games where we want our wide players to hug that touch line. We could even switch it. So there's this element of, right, Ahmad, you're going to go on the left today. Semenyo, you're going to go on the right. And we want you running on the outside, whipping balls into the box. Or you can come in, you're going to cut inside, and Cunha and Mbeumo are going to give us more width. Equally, you can have a game where he's on the bench and maybe you've got Delo or Dorgu starting and Semenyo comes on into a 10 role. Maybe you start a game where you go, listen, Cunha, you're on the bench today. Semenyo and Mbeumo are starting in the 10s. With more defensive-minded wing-backs. There are so many options you get from this. I like it. Rob, though, replies to Emily here and says, I'm afraid I have to disagree. He's not a wing-back, but another 10, in my opinion. I think he can play both for us. I think he can play both positions for us, depending upon what the manager needs. This is the manager who everybody a lot of United fans wanted Giovanni Quenda when Chelsea got him. If you look at what he did at Sporting Lisbon, and I didn't think I was getting cooked, but the viewers thought I was getting cooked today about my lack of football knowledge on this subject and how the fullbacks by Amorim have been used. But if you look at the evolution of his fullbacks at Sporting from the beginning until when he left, he had this mixture of wingers that can play the role and defenders that could play the role. Some of those guys that were wingers that played inverted and on their natural side also often played in his 10 role. And where have we seen that? Ahmad. We've seen that with Ahmad as an example. And I think in the short term, he could cover 2 or 3 different positions for us. You also think ahead of January, we might not have Mbeumo or Ahmad for at least half that month. So again, he might come in and not even go to left wing back to begin with. He might come in and play right wing back or the right 10. So there's lots of options here. And he's good enough, by the way, to challenge Mbeumo while we're all praising. He's good enough to challenge. Terry, Amorim had a talk with Semenyo. Yeah, he met him in the summer. And then Man United went to Bournemouth and made an offer of around 55 million. And Bournemouth said no. He ended up doing a new deal. He's now got a buyout clause of 65 million, which is actually going to be even smaller in the summer. So you would expect it to be 55 to 60 million then. Man United now may look at this. Man United may look at it and go, look, we've got the money sorted in the summer for our midfielders, but they're not available till then. Brighton won't budge. Forest won't budge. Palace won't budge. And I don't imagine any of those clubs budging. We may make a decision and go, we could go and spend some of that money now. We could miss out on one of those midfield targets and go and get João Gomez and spend the money there. And when I say miss out, you're not going to be able to get all those midfield targets if you sign a midfielder in the January, because that's a position. It's not the money, it's the position. Or we can fix a short-term issue with Mbeumo and Ahmad being away. Fix a longer-term issue with having more options in the attack, in the wing-back roles, in the 10 roles. And then in the summer, you address that dying issue of the midfield. I don't see it as bad, personally. Daniel here says, if you can't fix one position out of many problems, if you can't fix one problem out of many problems, then that need fixing. Don't not fix anything. Try to fix another of the problems and come back to your main issue later. I agree with what Terry said there. Listen, I've always felt things are like that in life, you know? It's one of them things. If you think about the squad as a car, for instance. I'm not a big car man, but you might go, right, the engine, we still need these 3 parts to make the engine run. Yeah, but the manufacturer said that, you know, there's been an earthquake on that side of the world and the country that manufactures parts is going to be 2 months. You wouldn't just sit there and go, well, let's do nothing else to the car in that 2-month period. You go, right, well, I have to wait 2 months until I can buy that part. So in the meantime, it's not as essential, but let's get the new suspension, let's get the new tyres, let's get the some of the new interior pieces needed and spend the money there. I'll earn more money between now and then I'll buy the parts for the engine when they're available. You wouldn't just go, I'll do no more work. If you're decorating your house and you're sitting here like, I really got to do the bathroom next. The bathroom needs fixing, it's awful. And you go to the bathroom centre and they say, this is the suite you want. Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be 3 months until we can deliver it to you. You might go, right, 3 months is a long time to wait. You get back to your house. This is saying you've got the money, right? This is living the hypothetical. Well, what we're going to do nothing else to any other part of the house? Or we're going to wait the 3 months? Well, you might go, right, well, let's start on this room. Let's get the new skirting board done. Let's get the carpets up. Let's sand a few walls. You don't need to do nothing. And the one thing that Liverpool do regularly under Michael Edwards, which I want to adopt, and I've wanted Man United to adopt this forever, if we genuinely believe we can get our number one targets but have to wait 6 months or a year, I would often rather wait. And I like the idea of João Gomez, but I've said it before, I'm only happy for us to go for him if we think he's in the same ballpark. If, for instance, the club look at it the same way the fans are, which is Wharton, Baliba, Stiller, Anderson here, Gomez here, I'd rather say no to Gomez. I'd rather give Kone a chance than spend 30, 40 million on a player that we don't believe is of that level. And then give Kone more opportunities and chances, but then take that money and go, right, what else could we invest in? We still need the Semenyo role. We might not even look at Semenyo. It could be somewhere. It could be a centre-back. It could be another number 9, whatever it may be. But fix another problem. You're so right. Emily's back with us again here and says, if we aren't going to get a midfielder in January, I'd rather we solve a different problem than do nothing. I'm fed up with United ignoring January. I agree. And Rob here says he concurs, and I couldn't agree more with you. I fervently agree with it. Again, I don't want to signing... I don't mind the second choice if first choice goes somewhere else. For instance, we went for Delap first choice. That was the club's first choice. We then had to pivot elsewhere. I'm not saying never sign a second choice or a third choice if that's what's available, right? But if the first choices are there but they're not available to the summer, wait. And if Semenyo's really high up on the list and he can now be got in January because there's a buyout clause, get it done. Now listen, Liverpool are going to be in for him. And I think if Liverpool and Arsenal go in for him, I think we're going to really struggle. But I'd rather give it a go. This is a member chat here from Mark Ash. Thank you. 7 months as a member, you legend. Terry, put a heat map on Semenyo and Ahmad, literally identical, but they play different positions. Those people have no knowledge. If he wants to be wing back. Look, as I say, I think the reason I bring the heat maps up, this isn't what people will do, and I'm not suggesting you're doing this, Mark. What happens in these scenarios is people either don't know or ignore something I've said for a long time. And I would love to talk to ex-pros and managers and coaches about this and see what their thought process was on it, because this is my theory more than anything else. But I look at players' heat maps more so than I look at the position that Sky Sports put them in on the screen. And the example I would give you, and I always go back to it, if you go back to, say, a year or so ago, it's changed for Bruno now because we know the roles changed. But if you look at Bruno under Ollie, especially, and you look at his heat map, KDB's and Odegaard's, yes, sometimes it was opposite sides of the pitch because they're on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the midfield three, but they would often pick the ball up and operate in almost identical areas. So therefore, when people would argue with me, you can't compare them. They play different roles. Look, Terry, one's an attacking midfielder, the other two are 8s and a 10. I reject that notion. Well, they pick up the same areas on the pitch. They receive the ball. They touch the ball in the same areas. Their job is to create. I'm judging them the same. What I wouldn't do is judge a DM whose heat map looks completely different from Bruno and judge them on the same standings. And I feel the same now. The defensive work that Semenyo does at winger, is almost the same as our wingbacks do. It's hardly any different. In fact, most wingers do the similar amount of defensive work in terms of duels being attempted, tackles attempted, clearances attempted, as Man United's. So what we're getting fixated on is the sort of arbitrary fixed positions that they put up on screen. And that's what they are. It's this, okay, no, that's left wing back though. You know, there's no reasoning to it. Oh, why would he play left back? Why would he play right back? It almost makes it, as I say, a little bit, arbitrary is not the right word. Banal is what I would use. I think it's more banal. It's just sort of, it's because I was thinking of the word reasoning and there not being any reasoning to it. It's you're just sort of saying something without looking at it deeper. And I look at what players do in their role more so than I do the role they're labelled with. That's just not always been my way. It's just something that I've got into the train of thought of thinking. And I'll give you an example. There are some players like Bobby Firmino. If you looked at Bobby Firmino's heat map when he played for Liverpool as a number 9, it looked more like other clubs' number 10s. It looked more like another club's number 10. So, for instance, if you want to buy Bobby Firmino, but you want an off-the-shoulder number 9 like Haaland, a number 9 like Šeško, a number 9 like Gyökeres, he'd have been the wrong guy. One, you must have watched him to see it. But you know by watching Bobby Firmino and the way he plays, his heat map would never have looked the same as a Haaland's. It just wouldn't. And there's a handful of strikers. Harry Kane can do both. Can drop in and play, can play off the shoulder. Some, I wouldn't want Haaland doing the Firmino role. Wouldn't want Gyökeres doing the Firmino role. Wayne Rooney, yes. Teddy Sheringham, yes. Bergkamp, yes. Other players, no. Ian Wright, no. Michael Owen, no. So, heat maps are key to understanding where a player drifts on the pitch, where they pick the ball up, where they operate. It's very, very key indeed. And I think that's why I don't think it's a big issue. Plus, a lot of non-Man United fans are not reading anything about the club. One, the manager has said that he will adapt his system at some point formation-wise. The club have said that drills and training around that have already started. Now, some don't believe it. Some go, oh, nonsense, not happening. Well, let's just agree with that then, that it's nonsense. We might have to sack Amorim still, right? I don't know, people don't want to talk about this, but it's the truth. The club have also said that they're not buying... This is why people annoy me. The club have also said that they're not buying players that are specifically built purely for this current formation and that are adaptable to new formations. So based on all three of those bits of information, it's not even a case of, just going to play left wing back for the next 6 years, mate. Crack on. It's not even as, I don't understand it, but that's just me anyway. That's just me. But look, as I say, from my point of view and perspective, it's excellent there what has been said by Wayne Rooney. And look, Fabrizio's update, and take this whichever way you will. His words were, Man United are targeting an electric, skillful, highly talented and rapid winger or number 10. Now, for me, I just straight away think of Semenyo, because I think he can do both. Remember, our number 10s are not the old-fashioned number 10s. They're not your Bruno at his peak, Juan Matas, Shinji Kagawas. Our number 10s drift out into the wide areas. Our number 10s have to be able to beat a man with pace. Semenyo can do that, and he's played centrally. I think we might look at a player that can cover two roles. Why? Because most of the players we buy can play multiple roles. Šeško, no, he's a striker. The goalie, no, he's a striker. But Dorgu can play on both sides, as an example. And Mbumo can play a couple of positions. Cunha can play a couple of positions. There are some players this is what I keep saying to people. And I think it's important that we understand this. Some players you buy will be specialists. Belieber would be a specialist. Elliot Anderson's more of an all-rounder, which means you can use him in multiple ways. And I think it's important to have that within a team. But as Fabrizio says here, Man United are targeting an electric, skillful, highly talented and rapid winger. And there's one thing that's so key here, and I don't know if you've seen the... RJ says it's so perfect here, someone fast. And it's so true. By the way, it's me. Thank you for gifting one membership to one lucky person in the audience, you legend. That means a great deal. And as you say, someone with speed. One thing this Man United team lacks in abundance every day, every week, is speed and power. And the Premier League, whether people like hearing this phrase or not, strength, athleticism, power, pace, these attributes, alongside good technicians, good passers, good goal scorers, have become paramount. And we need even more of it. We really, really do. We really, really do. How about... what does it say here? Sorry. I asked the five in, five out yesterday. How do you feel about this now? I know it's optimistic. Sell Bruno, Ugarte, Xerxes, Rashford, Højlund. Buy Anderson, Belieber, Semenyo, Diamande, Ignacio. Yeah, look, decent in that regard. I wouldn't be against it. What you are adding is more speed, more power, more pace, and I think more technical ability into the team as well. Anno here says, Semenyo, Adeyemi. Personally, I'd throw a Bahoya from Frankfurt as well. Well, look, on Adeyemi, that also leads us to another story today. Now, that comes also from Fabrizio, who is on the links to Karim Adeyemi. He says, as of today, Man United are not in negotiations with Adeyemi or Dortmund. Manchester United are looking for that kind of player who is fast and can play behind the striker. Now, for me, I'm so glad to read this. It gave me a little smile. I was in the gym, I was struggling and trying to push it in the gym hard at the minute. And it was this little bit of joy when I read that story today. Went on my phone, cleared my head. For Adeyemi, Man United, Fabrizio. I thought, oh no. Please don't do this to us, Man United. Now, let me just say, I think Adeyemi is a talented player. It's absolutely true that he's got electronic pace, good skill. But the man's a walking crock. And we've had so many players that have spent too much time on the injury table in recent years. Mason Mount, Luke Shaw's. Even like Maguire spends a bit too much time out injured for me. Martial, when he was still here, and I'm probably forgetting names, you guys will throw more in. I just don't want another injury-prone player. And I'm glad to see... I personally believe, and I would love, again, access to Wilcott to ask this question. I think the only reason they're not looking at him is his injury record. I think if he was available for the vast majority of games each season, I think he would. I think they'd go yes. I think they'd say yes. Let's have a look at him. But the last time I looked, let me go and have a look now. Right, let me go and have a look at this to make sure I'm not capping. Just on appearances here, right? So since he's been, do you know, in his whole career, he's not played 30 league games in a season. He played 29 2 seasons running in Austria for Salzburg. This season started pretty well on 10. Last season, 25. Year before that, 21. Year before that, 24. It's not great. I also looked at his injury record. His injury record is pretty damn poor for such a young player as well. Now, he might outgrow that because players do. But I'm going to go and have a look at it now so that I don't misspeak. But, wow. Yeah, it's crazy. So, in his career so far, he's had 1, 2, 3, 7, 11, 15, 17 injuries so far. Now, it's not a massive amount of games. I think in totality, games, well, it's a decent amount to be fair, 10, 12. So we do it this way around. So it's 30, 40, 50, 60. So about 70 to 80 games missed through injury. And from my point of view and perspective, it's like, I wouldn't take the risk. A lot of muscular issues, a lot of torn muscle fibers, hamstrings, abductor pains. Some of it's been illness, but there's just an element that worries me about him. I feel like with him, and I touch wood, it doesn't happen to the young man, but I feel like at some point soon there's going to be a big bad injury, like a massive tear that leaves him out for months. And yeah, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. Really, really glad that we're not doing that. Terry, how do you cope going on other shows? It's just noise. Everyone's shouting over each other. You host TFT well, but my God, it's a lot, man. Look, I would say this. I mean, and it's off subject slightly, but obviously we'll talk to the community here. I kind of enjoy it. I learn to block out a lot of the noise. I listen to what my panelists are saying as best I can, but I like it in moments. Sometimes we shut it down quite a bit. There are times where you've got to let it play out. That's kind of part of the panel. The thing is, you want it. I don't want it to feel like TV where it's okay, like you go. Okay, it's finished. Now you go. You lose that element of rawness that you want. Like it's like friends talking. If you and your friends are sitting around a table in a kitchen, in a pub, in a minibus on your way to go out and you're talking football, that's kind of how it is. I do also understand sometimes it's hard for the audience. So you let it go for a bit and then you step in. But no, I enjoy it. I enjoy the contrast. I like doing I do like doing shows by myself. I like short content by myself. But at the same time, I do like to have those panel shows and listen to other people's opinions and stuff. One of the things I've spoke to Mark about doing here actually is call-in shows, which I think could be really, really good. And Riz, listen, I know you said I'm boring. Riz, if I'm boring to you, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to act up and pretend to be someone I'm not. If you don't like it, there's not much I can do about that, my old friend. Sorry about that. I feel if we don't get him, he will get burned. Look at Dembele. Oh, we will get burned if we don't get Adeyemi. You could be right. And you look at what Dembele has done in the last 12 months at Paris Saint-Germain. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. At the same time, like fair play to Paris Saint-Germain for taking that risk and getting him back right and getting him fit and getting him like firing on all cylinders. But, he is out again, injured again now. Last year, he had 40 days out earlier on in the season. And last year was the best season he ever had. Because prior to that, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 injuries the previous season. 1, 2 the year before that. 1 the year before that. 3 the year before that. 4 the year before that. This man has had, a huge amount of injuries. And as good as Dembele is, and I'm glad he won the Ballon d'Or and he had an amazing season. Players that have the injury record that he had, get that turning round and him having the season he did, that's a rarity. It's not the rule, it's the exception. Plus, PSG are in a place of privilege in the sense of it's predominantly a one-horse race in their league most years. This year's a little closer, to be fair. They have an abundance of cash and no debt, meaning if it went wrong with him, they can buy somebody else. And they also have an abundance of talent where when he isn't playing, they can still win a lot of their games. So you add all those things in together, you can take the risk. I don't think Man United are in a position to take that risk. You drop £60 million on someone who spends the first 2 or 3 years out injured, that's going to hurt us badly. So I do get where you're coming from, Universal Soldier. I just wouldn't personally take the risk right now. I've got nothing against the player. I saw a few idiots online talk about attitude and behaviour and all that nonsense with no real grounding to it. I don't care about any of that. I'm looking at the injury record, availability, the amount of league games that he doesn't play. And I think we need somebody maybe a little more experienced, definitely who has better availability for me. Tom here says, you're great to listen to. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Tom. Listen, I don't mean this rudely. I take compliments with a pinch of salt and criticism with a pinch of salt. I look at life like this. You can't be everybody's cup of tea. Otherwise, that'd make you a mug. And some will like me, some won't. Big love to everyone and your super chat. Thank you so much for the support. People that don't like it, listen, I'll take the feedback on board if there's something I can improve on. But if it's how I am as a person, I'm just not going to do anything about that, really. Unless you think I'm being horrible and nasty. But if it's just my person, like my tone of voice, speed of talk, my face, I ain't changing. Terry, you're a professional and I love that. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that a lot. So top tier Tezza. Thank you, bro. Let's have a little look here. Connor watching from Massachusetts. Love that, my bro. I love Massachusetts. Great place. Great state. Let's have a look at some more comments there. I think we should go all out for Belieber in January, no matter the cost, to help secure Champions League football. Joseph, I like what you're saying there. I love what you're saying there. And it's one of those deals where there's no noise about it right now other than Nathan Salt said something I thought was interesting, and that was that... Actually, I'll read what he said. Let me just get up what he said yesterday. Let me find it here, because I think sometimes these things are... Where's it gone? I'm on the wrong person's feed. Bear with me a second, because I don't want to... I want to read it properly. Here it is. Okay, cool. So... I'll make sure I read this out correctly. What to expect in the January window. This is what he said yesterday. The feeling for a while now is that Man United are looking more at market opportunities than going into January fixed on landing a long-term target like Elliot Anderson and Wharton. Senior United figures do not believe the English midfield duo or Brighton's Carlos Believer are likely winter transfers, but don't rule out a move for a more low-cost player such as Wolves' João Gomez. Semenyo is one to watch, even if Liverpool are viewed as the front runners in that particular pursuit, and expect United to be watching Mark Gahey's situation with interest, given his contract expires in 6 months, and we haven't tied Maguire down to a new deal. It says, whilst United are not expecting significant activity in January, they are not ruling out bringing forward moves for the summer targets if a chance presents itself. Look at how they made a late play for Belieber. So I think what was interesting about Salt's update here is that he's not saying there will definitely be no transfers. He's saying that United don't expect it. But the world can change. And the world could change because Belieber walks into an office on Boxing Day and says, listen, I love what you've done for me, but I really want to go. And Brighton, unbeknownst to Belieber, have already found his replacement and been told he can be got in January and say, well, if we get the right money, it can be done. The world can change. And what you'll get to that response is from some people is, that won't happen, no, will it? Well, like it's not happened in football before. So United are open to moving these deals forward and getting them done in January. But what I like about our approach is, yes, if there's a good player, a market opportunity that we think's good value in that ballpark of player, we might do it. But what I don't want us to do, and to Emily's point earlier, we do ignore January's too much. But what I don't want to do is waste money on players that are just not of that level. I would rather wait into the summer and improve the squad thoroughly and properly for me. Semenyo screams market opportunity. But Luke, that's exactly it. And I see RJ agreeing. That's also one of those things. It's only just been revealed that what the buyout clause is and when it's active from. Now, what United might do with Semenyo, and it's just park a moment that other clubs are looking at him. Well, it's part of the conversation, actually, so you can't. But this element of, right, it's the 19th of November right now. Let's reach out to his agent again. Let's reach out to the player again. Let's reach out to the club again and see what can be done deal-wise. Let's see what conversations we can have. Let's see whether the player would pick us at this point. Now, Semenyo has said in interviews that he wants to be in the Europa League and Champions League next. So that makes it harder for us. Now, United have made a stance in recent times that we will not pursue players that don't want to pick us, we won't pursue. If he says to us, listen, guys, I won't join in January. I'll wait until the summer, but only if you're in the Champions League. Man United are likely to say no, because we don't want people having that conditional choice in their mind. And I agree, we want players that want to be at Manchester United. You get more Mbumos and Cunhas, more Lemaines when you do that than you do the flops we've had before when their number one choice is Man United, irrespective of where we're at. That being said, we get closer to, you could turn around to the player now and say, look, we're sitting 7th in the league. We're a couple of points away from a Champions League position. I don't think, even without the new midfield, let's just do a poll here, right? Let's do a poll, please, if you'd be so kind, Adam, who's producing the show behind the scenes. Big up to Adam, everybody. Make sure you give a shout out to Adam and his fantastic work on getting the show set up, thumbnail done, everything else. Big up, Adam. For me, is it plausible that we have 4? I'm going to go with 4. Is it plausible we have 4 more points now, today, if Semenyo also signed in the summer? 4 more points. And you can get those points from wherever you want. Is it more likely that if Semenyo signed and had been in our squad and team this year, is it more likely that we'd have 4 more points, the same points, or less points? So if you make them the options on the poll, at least 4 more points, 0 extra points, or less points. I just want to throw that out there as a poll and a talking point for a moment, because I think this is significant. And I think this is important. By the way, and I know some Man United fans will get infuriated by this, and I think sometimes it's a lack of critical thinking, and that's the great thing about being on the United stand, because all your hosts have it, the owner has it, the producers have it, the editors have it. Hopefully I do. It's critical thinking. We all know we need to improve the midfield, right? We all know we have to improve the midfield. We're not saying don't do it. We're not saying buy Semenyo and it will all be okay. We park that. But hopefully that poll's going to go up in a minute because I want to see what the results are. But most of you are saying more. And the reason why that is significant is because what you can say to Semenyo is, we know you want European football. You're 26, you want to move on to it. But we're a couple of points away. And with you joining this team for the what will then by then be the remaining 20-odd games of the season, it's highly likely we score more goals. We might concede a bit less because you can help us out defensively. We'll score more goals, maybe concede a bit less, but definitely score more goals. And we can improve that win percentage. And if the second half of the season, if we just maintain our season win rate so far, and we get to the second half of that season, someone like Semenyo can help improve that. There's a great chance of that European football that he wants. And I don't see why that's implausible. I'm going to say at least 4 more points. I think with Semenyo in this squad, could we have got an equaliser against Arsenal? Yes. Could we have beaten Fulham? Potentially. You're looking at 3 points there. I still think we lose to City. I still think we lose to Brentford. Could we have got a win in one of our last 2 draws? It's plausible, right? I mean, that's actually 5 points. That's more than what I'm saying. I think it's highly likely. What's the poll saying very early on? 80% think at least 4 more. 17% say no extra points. And 2% are saying less points as of now. Yeah, and look, as I say, but I like Dorgu. Listen, I like Dorgu. I think Dorgu's got more to come from him. I think there's more to come from Dorgu in a Manchester United shirt. I'm not looking at Semenyo as someone that would come in and replace him in that role every game, every minute, now, next season, the year after. And by the way, if a Semenyo comes in and a Gomez comes in and we improve and we make European football, next season there's more rotation. I think we'd all be looking at our squad so differently if we were in Europe right now. If we'd have won the Champions League, we would have actually bought more players. But there wouldn't be this Mainu and Xerxes conversation because they would have started more games. They'd have come on from the bench more, playing 2 games a week. Especially if we win if we won that, if we won that Europa League final, the world would be different. And I do think sometimes we make these snapshot views of, oh, this player's got to go and this player won't hang around and he'll be pissed off and want to leave. Yeah, this season. But if everybody stays grounded, keeps their head down, works hard, when they get their chance, takes it, we'll be back. We could be back in Europe next year where everybody's got more chances to play. Terry, this is from Dev, who says, Terry, let's say that we buy no one this winter, but still make the Champions League. What would be your ideal summer signings, both names and positions? I'm taking realistic players. Yeah, listen, it's a great point. So for me, Belieber straight away, Elliot Anderson. Get those two in midfield to begin with. A Semenyo-esque player as an example. Then I think we need to look at centre-backs. So for instance, someone like a Mark Gahey of that ilk, experienced, by then, hopefully a World Cup winner. Right, if England do the business. I look at 4 players like that. Then you're weighing things up. And you're saying, do you look at another defensive-minded fullback in that? Or do you look at another number 9? Is there an experienced number 9 you could go for? If you were to add 5 players along that line, defence, 2 in midfield, another fullback, maybe another number 9 that's more experienced. And the reason I say that versus another defender is let's see what Šeško's doing at that time. If Šeško kind of clicks into gear second half this season and starts scoring more regularly, looks confident, we might look at it and go, let's promote Obi or let's buy a backup as opposed to a main guy. But I look at that and go, you suddenly add, and it depends how many people leave as well, but suddenly if you have a midfield which has got Bruno in it, Mainu in it, Anderson in it, Belieber in it, Kone promoted in it, those 5 as go into that too, with the rotation needed because of the League Cup and the Champions League, excellent. Suddenly you've got defensive fullbacks, attacking fullbacks or wingbacks. You've got multiple players that can play the 10 role, Semenyo, Cunha, and Mbumo, Ahmad. You've got different options up front where you can play with number 9s. You can play with false 9s. I like that. That's what I would sort of look toward. What I will say is, even if we make it back into the Champions League this year, I still don't think by the end of the summer of 2026, we'll still have a fully built squad. I think it's more likely the end of the summer 2027 window where we might look at it and go, wow, suddenly look at the depth that we've got. But it's going to take a couple of years of getting back into European football and progression on the field to do that. And again, that's just, it's a little pie in the sky, a little bit maybe ahead of ourselves, but I'm only answering your question there, Dev. Thomas here says, Anderson, Stiller for me. I don't know about Belieber. Do you know what I think, Thomas? I think a lot of people have been slightly put off by Belieber due to the last couple of months of football. I'm not too worried about it personally. Terry, we could take Bruno and Ugarte out and put Mount and Mainu until Anderson comes. I wouldn't be taking Bruno out. I still think we need elements of Bruno. I would like to improve on him. I mean, he's a player that potentially in the summer we might go and bring us in 50, 60, 70 million anyway, irrespective of being in the Champions League. I actually think he will go this summer. Well, I say that, but if we suddenly start to improve and we become 4th or become 5th, but we're looking good back in the Champions League, sign some players, he might look at it and go, well, we're moving to where I want. Because I have this little vision sometimes of Bruno being a little bit, and some will say he's not as good, some will say he's better. I'm not getting into that debate. Of like Brian Robson, which is maybe he might win that Premier League with us in the back end of his career as we get to that level. But I'd love that to happen because I think he's been a great servant. Daniel here says he can't play the same type of wing-backs in the Premier League as in Portugal. They barely had to defend in Portugal. It's a great point. It's a great point, Daniel. But this is why sometimes we have to think longer term than today. So, for instance, I don't overly disagree with you, Daniel. But for me, one of the reasons why we do more defending than we have to and more battling than we have to is because our midfield isn't at the level that Ruben wants it to be. And the one thing I would say is why Elliot Anderson's a high target. If you look at players that progress the ball through the lines, there's only one player in the whole of the Premier League that's done a better job than that from central midfield this year than Bruno Fernandes, and it's Elliot Anderson. But Elliot Anderson does a lot of the other midfield elements better than Bruno does. The reason why I bring that up, and I think it's really important, Daniel, to think about it from this perspective, and it is a good point, and I agree with Rob, it's a good point. But let's just live in a Man United world for a minute, forget rivals, forget all the banter. Let's say now you put Belieber, Elliot Anderson and Stiller as and Mainu, they're our midfielders. They play our games. Are we suddenly having 10, 15% more of the ball? Are we being counted against more regularly? Are we being attacked against as frequently? The answer is no, in my humble opinion. Therefore, in lots of those games, especially a lot of your home games, quite a lot of your away games, you go, right, today, Anderson, Belieber, you're in the midfield. What we're doing today is Ahmad, Semenyo, you're going on the wing-back roles. Cunha and Bumo, you're in the 10 roles. Now, you guys have got to come in and help us out defensively, but we are going attacking today. There will be games, you go away to Man City, you go away to Arsenal, you go away to Bayern Munich, and you go, right, today what we're doing is it's going to be Belieber and Anderson in the midfield. We're putting Mainu into one of the 10 roles at this stage, okay? And hear me out on this. Or Belieber's coming out, and we're putting Stiller and we're putting Mainu into a 10, Stiller into the team, Anderson there. Mainu, one of your biggest jobs today is to drop into that midfield space. What we're doing today, Semenyo, you're going to be on the bench, right? And we're putting Dorgu in, who by now has improved. We're going to be putting Maz into the team. We'll just keep it as this squad. We need those defensive-minded players because they're going to really pin us back today because of how good they are. But later in the game, it's 0-0, it's 1-1. Now what we're going to do, we're absorbing it. Now we take one of those defensive-minded players off and an Ahmad or a Semenyo comes on and we can spring on the counter-attack. For me, it's about having multiple options in how we play. So I do, and that's exactly what Sporting did. So Sporting still had fullbacks. Someone sent me a list earlier. And some were wingers that were doing the role. Some were defenders. But it's about understanding what games you play which players in. Which games do you go more defensive? Which games do you go more offensive? Fergie did it all the time. There were games where you go, right, we actually don't need Scholes's. So I saw a lot of Liverpool fans trying to call Scholesy out. Scholesy didn't play this game against Liverpool and that game against Liverpool and this. Yeah, because we didn't need to. We weren't going to dictate the play against you. That weren't Fergie's choice. Fergie's choice was we were going to absorb and counter. And what I need to do today, as an example, is Park Ji-sung's doing a man marking job. I need Scholes' shielding. Sorry, I need Carrick's shielding. I need Park Ji-sung's lungs. And that's how we're going to go at it today. And that's what he did. And I want that back at Man United. I love that. So I hear you, Daniel. And I don't think you're wrong outright. There's no way you can play with attack-minded wing-backs in every single game of the Premier League and Champions League. You're spot on, you'll get hurt. But it's about a mixture. I think it's a mixture for me personally. Let's have a little look here at what some of you are saying. You need a young version of... I don't know who that is. Spill the tea, Lou. Big up yourself. Hope you're well. Hope you're good. Thank you for joining us here. We still have games that Bruno will cost us. The lack of tracking back and winning the ball back is a problem. Bruno and Delo, though. Look, we're going to have problems with a lot of these players in positions that are slightly alien to them for another couple of seasons until the squad's completely built. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be criticised, but I understand it. Where I do want to see, though, it's like this weekend, or Monday, actually. I think what we're going to see is Cunha, Mount, Bruno, Casemiro in the middle. Mount in the 10, Cunha as the 9. What I would love to see, because it's a home game, is Bruno move back into the 10, Cunha as the 9, and Mainu given an opportunity to see whether that improves us in those areas. I concur. I really concur. Lawrence here responded to Dan and said 42 players replaced to get Ruben his team at Lisbon. That's also true. And there's a big dichotomy of players. And they also lost a lot of players to certain teams. And obviously they lost like Nuno Mendes as an example. But he's a very good defender, but he's also fantastic at going forward. He really, really is. Nice to see you here as well, Lou. It's an opportunistic window for United. They said that's their MO. And I agree with it. I agree with it. I think that we should be looking at good opportunities. I know some people say break the bank. I'm not a fan of that outlook. And I'll give you an example. There might be times where you do it. So you might look at it and go, you're in a title race, but you're not quite as good as your opponent. And there's a striker there. In the summer, he's 80 million, but he's going to cost 95 today. You might weigh up that 15 million pound in that moment and say, let's spend it. But overall, I'm not somebody who likes to overspend or undersell, because I think in the long term, and United have done this, is you burn that candle at both ends and it ends badly for you. Tom here, Tom McBride with the super chat says, us getting Semenyo would be like Liverpool getting Lewandowski. Great player, yes, but the position is more than sorted. Let's get quality midfielders. And Tom, we spoke about this a little earlier on the show. And I don't overly disagree with your premise. I think what you're saying holds water and is sensible, Tom. My only pushback, and it's just as a suggestion, is I want to make sure I worded it like I worded it earlier, because I'm maybe thinking about it slightly different now. If the midfielders that we want are only available in the summer, and buying Semenyo doesn't eat into the budget for them, but you can't get Anderson, Wharton, Baliba now. It's just impossible. The clubs won't sell unless we pay 20 or 30 million over the odds, which means you eat into the budget for Semenyos and new strikers the following summer. Then I would do it, because I still think Semenyo is an important part of the squad build, although not as important as getting new midfielders in. But if the club go, right, we're going to have the money in the summer for the 2 midfielders we want, the 3 midfielders we want, but we've also got money now for another player, and Semenyo's there and those players are not, I would get him. Like a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. He would improve us. We would win more points. Where I agree with you is if the choice was buy Semenyo, but it means you won't get one of those midfielders in the summer, then I say no, wait. In that regard, yes. What can we offer him that other clubs can't? Look, without sounding arrogant, without being, a little bit big-headed, without coming across in that way, I think, because we know we like to do that sometimes, we could be a little conceited, a little pompous as Manchester United fans. But for me, I look at it as, how do I say this? We can offer him the fact that we're Man United. And I think that's a big pull still. I think we can offer him the fact that we are starting to improve and he can be part of that. Now, are we in a title race like Arsenal? No. Are we in the Champions League and in a title race? I still think Liverpool will be in a title race like Liverpool. No. And that's against us. There's no doubt about it. But Man United still have selling points. And the one thing that I'd be saying to him, it might not work. I was a very good salesman in my day, but I lost deals. Is I'd be saying, look, you might go there. You go to Arsenal, win a Premier League, you're going to be loved. But it's going to be the Sakas of this world, and it's going to be the Gyökereses and the Declan Rices, the Odegaards, the Gabriels, the Salibas, the guys that have been there through the trenches in the last few years, that are going to get all the adulation. You'll just go, oh, Semenyo, thank you. You're going to get that. You join this Man United team now, if you believe in it, and help us build to that point in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll be hero level. Now, of course, Arsenal fans will make their pitches sound good. I'm doing Man United's. Get me in a room with Semenyo and I can sell him Man United. I really, really could. But I hear your point. Like we don't have as much as other teams. What we do have is our history. What we do have is an improving team. And I still think a massive selling point is, do you want to be part of the revolution that brings the biggest club in England, one of the biggest clubs in the world, back to its glory days? Because the level of fame and fortune and legacy that comes with that, in my opinion, if you help United do that, it doesn't matter what you win with Liverpool. It doesn't even matter what you win with Arsenal. there's a chance that what we do could surpass it. Now, it's a risk, but is it a risk that you are willing to take? Are you willing to risk the failure for a God-level status in the game? Are you willing to risk it all to become a legend at the biggest football club this country has ever seen? That is what I would be trying to sell to him. Now, again, rivals will hate what I'm saying, but they're not meant to like it because they don't like us. And I get that. But that is what I would do. You know? As kind of contemptuous as it may be, as insulting to others as it may sound, that is how you sell the club at this moment. Because it is true. Fix Man United. People do not understand our size. We are a sleeping giant. Someone pointed out that Real Madrid have got 180 million followers on Instagram. We've got 65 million. If Man United start competing for Prems and winning Prems, if Man United start competing for Champions Leagues and winning Champions Leagues, you watch how quickly we catch those numbers. You watch how quickly all the dormant Man United fans that are just not interested anymore come alive again. Whether you like those fans or not, you weren't here for the trenches. I don't really care. The size of the club's massive. Look, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in this evening. It's always an honour and a pleasure to sit here and speak to you all. Please like, share and subscribe before you do. We're back, the United Stand, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, so make sure you're all tuning in. I'm back here same time tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye, God.